Hi everyone, we are back for more American Horror Story breakdowns. This is going to be episode 3 and 4, but before we do that, we wanted to take a few moments to celebrate the life, the tragic passing of Leslie Jordan, who of course was a favorite amongst ours in the American Horror Story universe, but across TV, theater, and films. Greg, this was a horrible news earlier this week. Do you have a moment that kind of stands out as that you'll remember Leslie by the most?
Oh my God. I mean, everything. For AHS standards, I mean, come on, Cricket Marlowe, 1984. He's been in the back of my head since the start of the pandemic and even before that with everything he's done in his career for AHS for almost a decade now. And I don't know. It sucks. That's all I can say. I miss him already. It just feels like when Bernie Mac dies, like, oh, that's a family. It felt like a family member. Like my uncle just passed away, and then I just get the same vibes now. It's so crazy.
Yeah,
I miss you
it
so
was
much.
very, 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 very tough news to hear. Not only for what he was, professionally, but also, yeah, you're right. During the pandemic, his visibility kind of reached a different height, making some really fun and lighthearted social media content that we all really enjoyed. So, much love to all of his friends and family. We will definitely miss Leslie Jordan. All right, Greg, let's jump into episode 3. It's called Smoke Signals, and we pick up here at a late night diner with Fran and Hannah, and they're talking about Operation Paperclip, which was a real thing, happened after World War II, where a bunch of former Nazi scientists, high-end people, kind of put into a program to help the U.S., in the space race and things later on. And here it's a very horrible, working on man-made diseases and viruses in order to test on individuals. Some very horrible things that they're talking about.
The people that created this were evil. I think they made the disease as painful as possible.
Now, Ryan, of course, we're talking about conspiracy theories, and now you just brought up Nazis and Paperclip. Of course, we're talking about now Asylum, and a few things actually come out of Asylum from this conversation with Hannah and Fran. Of course, Dr. Arthur Arden, everyone's favorite Nazi doctor who was, working on everybody there at the Asylum. A lot of similarities here in this situation as well. Now, the second thing when it comes to AHS Asylum and the connections, again, with conspiracy theories and experimentation, we have the situation going on with these deers that Fran and Hannah are talking about and the connections between this and COVID and everything going on, and including monkeypox. Now, with all that said, yes, there are little nods. You can tell that someone's like, okay, what's going on now? But this whole season, Ryan, it's AIDS. HIV/AIDS epidemic from beginning to end, even the Big Daddy stuff. We'll go into that a little bit later, but I think this whole season is just essentially AHS and everything, and the big monster is really right now is HIV and the AIDS epidemic.
All right, Greg. So now Stu wakes up in the basement. He was locked up in, but he just gets out. And, I was thinking about like a lot of horror films and TV, the trope of like letting the victim escape, letting them think that they're escaping. But in this case, he actually does just like walk out the front door, walks past Big Daddy, no even like acknowledgement that Stu is even there. He goes to the cops. The cops are like, yeah, right. We don't believe you, but they do follow up. Patrick follows up and goes to Sam's house, having another rager over there, and basically says, hey, look, yeah, there is a cage down here, but it was consensual. He's into it, playing a game. Like, no laws were broken. Patrick, really can't do anything in the moment. And I was kind of surprised and shocked by the gall on Sam to just basically, just blow him off right there,
Yeah, again, Ryan, have you seen the movie Secretary?
I have not, no.
Okay, that is viewing for the weekend for anyone who hasn't seen Maggie Gyllenhaal's Secretary with good old Ultron. Spader's in it as well. I got that vibe from Sam right from the jump when he put him in that cage and said, "You're gonna do this, and I'm gonna move on." So I would say anyone watching that, but at the same time, this was not consensual. Stu did not agree to this. He said, "Let me out." So I have a feeling that again, he knew the laws. He knew what the cops were going to do. He knew the cops were homophobes. He knew they wouldn't want to investigate this, and also he knew that Stu wasn't going to go to trial. Remember in the first episode, where he had Theo say, he told him send it to my private collection. I don't want to know. I do not want to know what the hell is in. I never want to find. I hope no one has to find that. I don't want to know what the hell's in there.
I think we might see some of that private collection at some point later in the season. Like there might be a huge reveal of what horrible stuff is going on, but we'll have to wait a little bit.
I'm happy to play this act in front of your little buddy over there. I know what you're into. And I know what you know about pain.
Now, overall, Greg, this season of American Horror Story pulls a lot of inspiration from a ton of things that happen in pop culture, as well as crimes that we've seen in the past, real life crimes. One in particular, the Last Call Killer, was a serial killer in the 90s. His name was Richard Rogers Jr., and he murdered and dismembered at least 2 gay and bisexual men in the early 90s. Now, the really scary thing about this, Greg, is that he's connected to murders across the United States. I think it was even Maine and Florida, as well as New Jersey, New York. But he also wasn't caught and tried until 2001. So almost a decade of just the fear for a certain group of people to have that lingering over there. And you definitely see that in this season of the show, of just being hunted just because you're different than everyone else, just someone targeting a certain group of people. So definitely a very scary and real life thing that's happening in the show.
Now we're back in the subway station with Hans for a moment, and he's creeped out by this woman over at the other side of him in the train station, and she just says to him, "Something's coming." Weird, creepy. That's a trope. It feels like a Stephen King thing as well. Just every time, you got that one person say something bad's about to happen, and of course something does. Now with Hans, shout out to the comment section, because the last week during the premiere, all I noticed was the hair, Ryan. I was like, that looks familiar, but also, is that just the style? Is that just a trend? But he definitely looks like somebody. And sure enough, the comment section, thank you so much. You helped us out nailing this one, because I couldn't find it at the same time. It turns out that Hans may be an inspiration or a tribute to the German performer Klaus Nomi. We're back with Adam. He's meeting up with Theo at a private club where we meet Dunaway, played by Sis. Sis is a performer and activist behind the recent Trans March on Broadway, and they're joining a year-long national tour for the Tony Award-winning revival of Oklahoma.
This whole scene sets up the dynamic between Theo and Adam, and it seems like a genuine, from what we think, it seems like a genuine just attraction between the two, and that there's no kind of underlying motives going on here. But obviously Adam is trying to get word out that hey, there's a horrible murder on the loose. Let's get the name out, the picture out. Mr. Whiteley is actually at this venue and actually sends a drink Adam's way.
Thankfully, but unfortunately too, at the same time, which is just AHS fashion, just something worse is just about to transpire, as we see even Mr. Whiteley shocked, and he looks over as now Big Daddy's here when he's got a Molotov cocktail. And things just go downhill from there.
So the fire sends a ton of people to the hospital and kills a few people that we hear of. Most people smoke inhalation, horrible burns. Poor Dunaway starts looking like Two-Face after the run-in with Big Daddy's fire. And at the same time, Hannah is at the hospital. How convenient. And wants to start drawing blood from some of her patients that are kind of experiencing, the symptoms that are kind of rare. While this is going on, everyone's kind of just all mayhem is breaking loose at the hospital. And, Gino, Adam, and Patrick are all kind of aware that, their suspect, Mr. Whiteley, is actually at the hospital at this moment. Greg, we know there are tons of rules in horror movies and TV shows. Another one that we see here, you never split up. Gino tells Patrick at the hospital, let's just split up. As soon as that happens, I'm like Leo DiCaprio pointing at the screen in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You do not do that, because you know that it means bad news for one of the characters, and in this case, Gino.
Now we jump into episode 4, Blackout, right back at the hospital, of course, with Gino, and he is trapped in that freezer. But thankfully, for whatever reason, Patrick figures out that he's in the morgue, and he pulls him out of there. And guess what? Now they're itching. Both of them are itching. It looks like whatever going on with those fleas, the ticks, and the deer, and whatever in this disease, this virus going around right now. It's affected now Gino and Patrick.
I think that we should take a note that Whiteley does have some sort of moral compass, some sort of set of rules as a serial killer, the things that he will and won't do. Obviously, his morals are trash. He's killing people. He's committing mass murder, but he also will not kill spill the blood of another veteran, right?
Yes.
Basically, that's how Gino was saved last week. But he will kill Gino by freezing him to death. So there is, there is a boundary where he will and won't cross. So it's good. It's, and you see this with a lot of like serial killer movies or stories, that there are some sort of construct that they build in their head about what rules can and can't be broken.
And on AHS, you know how we deal with our villains. There's very likely, I don't know if we're going to get a back to Vietnam scene or anything like that, but you're certainly going to get some flashbacks of whatever went down in Mr. Whiteley's either childhood or the years during the war. That's got to be coming any second now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good call. I mean, we saw that with 1984 with Mr. Jingles, right? Mr. Jingles?
Yeah. Twisty the Clown.
Yeah, we saw Twisty the Clown. You always get that kind of like a background, some context into why this person has turned out this way and what kind of set in line, what set everything in motion for that person to then be doling out all this trauma and murder across, decades later. So just things to keep note of as we get to learn more about these characters and Mr. Whiteley in particular.
Now we're back at the bathhouse with Kathy, and she's watching an audition. And guess what the audition is for? Anything Goes, which is a nice Easter egg for, of course, our Broadway legend, Patti LuPone, who, of course, did a revival of the play Anything Goes in the late 80s. And she even was nominated for a Tony. And on top of that, guess who joins her in the next scene? It has to be Joe Mantello. It just had to be. So you have two Broadway legends together in AHS, and they're just having this great scene where, of course, Kathy realizes that more has to be done here. And so now she wants to step up as well and help out with everything that's going on.
I am a concerned business owner, and I am bothered that no one is investigating these disappearances.
This is a big moment for her to kind of go on record, but I also do fear for her character moving down here once it's public knowledge and it's in a published newspaper, and then more and more people are going to hear about this, and then ultimately, hopefully, Whiteley doesn't do anything horrible to her and kind of hush people up. Greg, we have a new crime scene, and Patrick and the cops are rolling up there, and it turns out, we talked about earlier, it is Hans, who should not have followed that mysterious woman in the subway late at night. This whole scene and setup felt very much the movie Seven to me. Coming across a crime scene, a grotesque victim laying there in their bed, half naked.
And AHS connection, we talked about Seven, but the connection here, I think, also comes from, was it Hotel?
Yeah.
You had a few scenes at the beginning of the season with the detectives coming in, bodies on the bed.
For sure, yeah. Now, we kind of saw this coming, Greg. Theo and Adam getting closer and closer with one another, a relationship forming here. And Theo and Sam, Theo's not putting up with it anymore. It's not a healthy relationship there at all. As you can tell, we don't trust anything that Sam is doing. So Theo, they have a blowout, and he wants to leave him. Immediately I was like, uh-oh, this is not good news for Theo or for Adam. Sam is, in a position of power, and who knows what he will do and what kind of lengths he'll go to trying to get Theo back, or, just kind of just kill everyone or have them killed. So, this is a kind of a big moment in the relationship between the dynamic of these three characters.
We're back with Patrick at the police department. I'm very proud of him, Ryan. He came out awesome. I don't know if it was the right decision to do it at the police department with his boss, even though at the same time, Kyle Penn's character, who plays, I think it's Mac, oh my God, Ryan. Marzara. Mac Marzara. Last week, I felt he might be closeted as well.
Yeah.
Something more is up here with also Kyle Penn's character, Mac. There's something going on with their dynamic, and we don't know what's going on with Patrick either, even though we're getting more and more peeled back, including, again, in a second when we go back to Patrick and Gino and their conversation where they just let it all out.
Yeah, that's a good point, Greg. Remember, over the course of this episode, we do see Mac kind of questioning Patrick, right? And kind of like inquiring about how his work and like how he's doing it and how he's kind of looking into all the stuff. And he's kind of not like thinking he's a suspect for anything, but just kind of looking at him a little bit like with a different kind of different eye, like kind of just like paying closer attention to him and kind of questioning certain things he does. So this moment for Patrick is huge, as we see later on with his conversation with Gino. He's very he has a sense of relief after coming out just to his boss. Obviously the wider police station and partners and everything is who he works with. They don't know, and he's kind of still, on eggshells about how to deal with that thing publicly in a forum with the entire workforce. So we know there's a lot of questions still surrounding Patrick, his past, the truth. We get a scene with Barbara and Gino. The one thing I've learned is don't trust Leslie Grossman's characters on American Horror Story. Her motivations here, why is she kind of getting in between, causing some sort of rift between these two? But clearly Patrick has some things in his past that he wants to keep a secret still, even though he's kind of slowly along this path of trying to be honest, trying to open up, trying to relieve himself of some of this shame and guilt that he carries with him. And I think that the scene with him and Mac is just a big scene for the character, obviously, to come out to someone that he works with, right? And we'll see how it kind of affects him later on. But then later with Gino, he's not 100% there yet. He's not being honest with who he is and the partner in his life at the moment.
And right from there, with that conversation with Gino and Patrick, again, at this point, I'm all protect Gino at all costs. So he's starting to have, looks like he's having a heart attack, and they take him to the hospital. I'm like, come on, please, 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 not again. Every week, I'm going to be like that now.
Gino has been through a ton, Greg. Gino has been through a ton.
We got to save him.
Poor guy.
Now, sticking with Patrick at the police department, here we go with the next trend when it comes to serial killers. Guess what? They're intimidating the cops. Mr. Whiteley is calling Patrick now on the phone, just taunting him. Obviously, we know he struck again at the very end of this episode, but it just seems like we're now at the escalation where Patrick and if we're going the 7 route, I'm worried about Gino here.
So then Patrick goes to the park, to the payphone, right, the hookup spot over there, and literally runs into Big Daddy. Now, Greg, we need to have the Big Daddy conversation here. Big Daddy is swinging a Morningstar, looking like he's straight up in House of the Dragon. Do we feel that is Big Daddy, Patrick then fires back with his gun. First of all, Patrick, go back to basic training. I don't know how you can miss, but maybe there's a reason. Maybe do we think Big Daddy is an apparition? Is it not a real person? Is it you've said this off camera, is it an allegory, a metaphor for
HIV.
the threat of the HIV crisis towards this community? Does it represent something bigger? And are we just seeing that manifestation, that representation as a character, a murdering character on this show? How do you feel that
11 seasons in, 11 seasons in, I would love if that were the case, if Big Daddy, I don't know if it's, again, because we always have ghosts and there's always some kind of tie-in when you die, but I would love if this is just nothing more than an allegory or anything for the HIV/AIDS crisis when it comes to Big Daddy, because again, a lot of people who are all been, I think, infected with the ticks and are scratching, they've seen Big Daddy. Could Patrick be hallucinating here? Is everyone hallucinating seeing this guy? There's a lot to go with, but I liked it. It was effective, and I really hope that is what it is. It's just a giant allegory for like you see things, and it's actually just more and more about HIV/AIDS crisis, because this season, honestly, from beginning to end, really is honed in on that.
Those are all great points, Greg. There are some holes in theory in terms of like some people. I mean, we've seen a lot of characters kind of see Big Daddy, right? But then also, Big Daddy doesn't respond to Stu earlier in the episode, in episode 3, when he's walking outside of Sam's house, right? He just there's like zero reaction there. But then he's throwing a Molotov cocktail at Dunaway. Dunaway says, "Oh, Big Daddy's out there. I saw this." So it's like, who can see it? Who doesn't? Are we gonna get a reveal later on that like people are getting murdered by another person, and this Big Daddy is just a manifestation like of fear itself, of what's out there? Is the club fire gonna be just it
Just
was
some homophobe? It could have been a cop, anybody.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see how they reveal this, because we could tell from the build of the character that it's not anyone that we've already met. It doesn't look like anyone else on the show so far.
Yes, they even had, like, remember Patrick, there was a chance where that maybe Patrick could be Big Daddy, as we see him put on his leather-clad suit, and then he goes down. We have the Kink Men Presents Bound Gods AHS version with him and a gentleman, and so there's the whip, there's all that, so you're thinking, maybe Patrick might be Big Daddy. No, that's not the case.
Yeah, they want you to think that, definitely. They want you to think that, like, hey, what's up with this guy? Or is he connection with Big Daddy? Or, he has the mask, he's putting the harness on, and you kind of see that side of his life that he's kind of is living in secrecy. But obviously, it just doesn't kind of like correlate one to one. It doesn't look like Patrick is that huge kind of Bane-looking character that you alluded to last time. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here.
And of course, we know Big Daddy actually is very real, because we've revealed who the actor is. It is portrayed by, he's portrayed by Matthew William Bishop. So he's portrayed by Matthew William Bishop, and this is his first IMDb listed role. And so fans, you can go head over to Mr. Bishop's Insta if you would like to check out all the behind-the-scenes footage and anything else you may want to go view over there whenever you want.
Well, almost missed you.
So Mr. Whiteley is still out there on the loose killing. He's getting more aggressive. He's finding more victims. You guys, we got to watch out. We're excited for next week, episodes 5 and 6 already.
Whew.
Over halfway through the season, Greg. Feels like it just started. It's because it did, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But thanks for watching, guys. It's good to be back breaking down these episodes on the channel. We appreciate your support. Thank you guys so much. We will see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.